The World Wrestling Federation, for over 50 years, the revolutionary force in sports entertainment.
Hey guys, it's Steve from Mantis here. You're listening to the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast, only on the Counted Out 7 YouTube channel. Jay, let's go!
Welcome, everyone, to the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast. Welcome, everyone, to the Counted Out 7 YouTube channel. And welcome, everyone, to In Your House. Ladies and gentlemen, we are covering the first ever In Your House pay-per-view. I'm fired up, and Tyrone, you got that to deal with this week. How you doing, pal?
Well, fuck, I'm not nearly on that level as you are, but give me a couple of beers and hopefully I'll be there with you. I'm doing damn good though, man. I love it when you get to chat about New Generation because it either means I'm going to make you real mad throughout this or we're just going to have a good time no matter what.
Oh, we're going to have a good time no matter what. I got a couple of delicious Ace Hill strawberry grapefruit vodka sodas lined up in front of me here, and I'm ready to get into this sucker. I know that this is not your wheelhouse. It certainly is mine. 95, not as much, but boy, howdy, am I pumped for this one.
I mean, the ultimate question, though, Jay, is are we going to be giving away a house to any of our listeners by the end of this show?
Well, if they ever end up making that In Your House gingerbread house, then we'll definitely send one of those someone's way. And you know what? I'm going to stick to my promise. We are going to make one this upcoming holiday season, so if I have to, I'll craft it out of gingerbread myself, and I'll make one.
Yeah, that's all on you, bud, because I am not a baker, nor am I creative, really, in any way, shape, or form. So you feel free to bake that gingerbread house, my friend.
Oh, that's too bad, because I was really hoping we could do segments. Like I'd do the garage, and you could do like the front living room and maybe the door. But if that's the case, then I guess I'll take on the responsibility all on my own.
I'll do the front yard. How's that?
Okay, sounds good. I would love to see a little like gingerbread Tyrone with like a big bushy beard with like a lawnmower made of gingerbread. That'd be hilarious.
You're assuming I know how to work a lawnmower. I mean, come on.
That's very fair. Very fair indeed. Well, as we discussed, ladies and gentlemen, this week we are discussing the very first ever In Your House pay-per-view. As most of you know by now, most of our listeners know that I am a huge New Generation mark. Super excited to be discussing this particular event in general, and I have some notes and discussion pieces, some topics and bullet points to hit before we get into the rebooking. But I believe that Tyrone, you, my friend, have some fun this week in wrestling history trivia, and not trivia, sorry, some factoids. Why don't you hit us with them, pal?
I do have a couple of fun ones this week, actually. In 85, on May 10th, this exact day, the WWF taped its first ever Saturday night's main event with a card that was quite good, actually. You had Ricky Steamboat and the U.S. Express taking on Volkov, Sheik, and George Steele. You had Hogan defending the title against Bob Orton in a where there was a disqualification finish, because that's just kind of what happened in that era. Wendy Richter defended her women's title. Junkyard Dog was on the card. It was a pretty solid card overall. I don't know if you remember much of this one, Jay. It was before I was born and just after you were born, so I don't know what your memories of it are.
Not really anything specific. I mean, I didn't start watching wrestling until 96, so I wouldn't have seen this live or have any memory of it. I would have been 2 years old at the time, or probably 1.5. So, or no way, I guess 2.5. But no, it was. I have seen the events through the WWE Network, and I enjoy this time period. It's really interesting to see the setups and displays of this era. I mean, even like WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 2. WrestleMania 3, we started to get a little bit more elaborate, but it's incredible to see how far the presentation has come from the days of just a curtain, not even, in many cases, a rollout mat leading through the entrance aisle. I believe that these particular Saturday night's main events didn't even have the mats around the ring at this point yet. In fact, I'm positive of that because we saw the the Ricky Steamboat DDT onto the floor about a year removed from this. So it's a really interesting time. It's during the Rock and Wrestling connection. That was all the pieces were fitting. We're coming off WrestleMania 1 here, the huge success there. So I think this is such a cool era, and to see the evolution of the product in general is it's really, really wonderful to go back and watch these kinds of events.
I love going back and watching the old Saturday night's main events just for the promos at the beginning. The first, I believe it was like the first season or two, you had that iconic theme song of Obsession, which you and I both know. You and I both know it very well. It was also the theme song for a television show up here in Canada for a long time called Fashion Television. So a lot of people know this song for different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great touch as well. In fact, I remember when they were doing the Raw guest hosts back in 2009, 2010, Jesse Ventura was one of the hosts 1 week, and he came back, and his gimmick at that particular event was that he was going to do color commentary for a battle royal that was the main event of that particular Raw. And he was forcing Vince McMahon to be his commentary partner. And so he turned back the hands of time. You see Vince McMahon come to the ring with his obligatory tuxedo and red bow tie. And he actually came to the ring with that song, the Obsession song. It's now edited off the WWE Network, but I remember watching it, and it was so much fun. He was doing that Mr. McMahon swagger, but it was just so much fun. It gave me goosebumps. It was a real feel-good moment.
If I'm not mistaken, that Battle Royal was the one that Sheamus won to face John Cena, correct? Where it was all people who had never held the title were in the number one contender Battle Royal?
It may very well have been, yeah. But I thought the coolest thing about it was, I don't know how much research Jesse Ventura did going in to the Raw. I can't imagine a lot, but he just slipped right so seamlessly back into that role. He was great. He was better than a lot of the commentators, and he hadn't done it for probably at that point, close to 20 years.
There's a reason why Jesse's considered one of the best ones ever. But I do want to touch on one other thing before we get into your long drawn out 1995 new generation why it's the best speech that I'm sure is coming. And that is also on May 10th, it was 22 years ago, so do the math, kids. My brain's not working. I believe that would be 99. We had the highest rated Raw ever. It drew an 8.1 with a main event of Steve Austin, The Rock, and Vince McMahon defeating The Undertaker, Triple H, and Shane, with Shawn as the special referee. But this Raw is notable for two other things. Number one, the highest rated segment on the entire show was Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe taking on the Mean Street Posse in a loser leaves the WWF match, which that just blows my mind. But also, Deborah became the women's champion because she technically lost an evening gown match to Sable, but Shawn Michaels, being the perverted 1999 sexy boy that he was, decided to award Deborah the title because she looked better in her underwear.
Yeah, this is definitely much different than what we're going to talk about today. I mean, we're 4 years removed from the In Your House that we're talking about today, and quite an interesting change in the company. I often think about in wrestling how quickly certain eras change. You look at, like, indicative of what we just spoke about with Saturday night's main event, the presentation, the scope and scale, the kind of feel that we had. And then you fast forward to, even 3 or 4 years later, the grandiose nature that the product was presented in. And then if you look at, say, Saturday night's main event that we just talked about, and then compare it to the product we're talking about now, this Raw is War from May 10th, 1999, it's incredible to think like the two products would look almost irrecognizable to each other.
Yeah, but that kind of goes with the way that wrestling goes. Every, I would say, 3 to 4 years, for the most part, you get that kind of change, whether it be roster or set design or going from TV mature to TV PG, different things like that. Like, I know I say every 4 to 5 years, and it's kind of been the same for the last 7 or 8, but during this time frame, it seemed like every 4 to 5 years, the entire thing would change.
Yeah, without question. I guess I just mean more along the lines of the presentation. If you look at even before Saturday night's main event or the first WrestleMania, you look at even the NWA at that time, they all looked fairly similar in terms of, it wasn't a lot of bells and whistles. I mean, I think the first time I ever saw Pyro at a WrestleMania was WrestleMania 6 when Warrior won the title at the Sky Dome in Toronto. So, I guess my point is more than anything is just it's incredible to see the evolution of products and how they change from one facet to the other. This particular Raw was leading into the Over the Edge pay-per-view, which unfortunately is famous for all the wrong reasons. But it was a very magical time in the company. They could do no wrong in terms of their storytelling. Their merchandise was flying off the shelves. They were at the height of their popularity. Their biggest, most profitable year, I believe, was the year 2000. I could be wrong on that, but we were only a few months away as well from the WWF going public. They'd go public in October of 1999. So, the company and the landscape had changed quite a bit. And this particular event, I remember it was actually a pretty good Raw, all things considered.
Yeah, the card's not bad. Like, you have the Stooges and the Posse, which to me just makes me laugh thinking about it. You had Billy Gunn and Kane. You had, for some reason, the Big Show and Paul Bearer. Boss Man and Test in the Nightstick on a Pole match, which I actually do remember quite vividly. You had Cactus Jack on the card. You had Jeff Jarrett, Ken Shamrock, Chyna, Val Venus. All the superstars of the time were there. Now, before we move on into your rebooking, Jay, I just want to touch on one other little note in history, and that's mainly for selfish reasons. But 7 years ago, at the world famous, at least in our minds, Sweaty Teddy Ted Reeve Arena in Toronto, New Japan and Ring of Honor did one of their global wars, and I remember being there and watching Adam Cole and Kevin Steen in the main event being blown the fuck away. It was one of my first times seeing a lot of the New Japan guys. I'd been to Ring of Honor shows at the time, but oh my God, just seeing the likes of Kevin Steen, Adam Cole, the Bullet Club, Jay Lethal, Matt Taven, Shinsuke Nakamura, Jushin Liger, the Briscoes, Mike Bennett. The list could go on and on and on, but it was such a solid show. I don't know if you were at that one. I know you've been to the venue for one or two shows, but I don't know if you were at that one.
Yeah, no, I wasn't at that one. I have been to that venue a couple of times, and I've also been to the Mattamy Athletic Center for a couple of them as well. Ring of Honor is a great product to watch live. It's very fast paced. It has that indie feel, but it also, that everybody that's participating on the card has some real chops for the most part. They're probably going to be going on to bigger and better things at some point. I mean, it's been a great breeding ground for some of the best and most notable talents to come from the quote indie scene in the last 20 years or at least 15 years. So I have a lot of respect for ROH, and I think in a way it's almost kind of like a pseudo developmental territory for a lot of these bigger companies. Obviously, first and foremost being WWE, but now with AEW as well. Although, as we've alluded to in a couple of previous episodes, that there really is a wrestling boom going on that I think was starting before the pandemic, but sort of in a strange roundabout way. The pandemic has allowed for wrestling of all different ilks, different promotions, different facets and shapes and forms to kind of thrive. So I'm really excited to see where ROH going forward. But to your point, I mean, seeing a match like Kevin Steen and Adam Cole back then, that would have been magic.
And I do promise you guys, at some point, we will tackle some Ring of Honor. I know we've had a couple of requests for it. We've had requests for that and some Impact and some NXT. But right now, we're still trying to fully figure out our bearings. I think we're getting there, but we're sticking with a couple of things that we're kind of familiar with. But I promise you, we will get to these companies. But with that being said, Jay, I think it's time to get to the main event that I know you are freaking dying to talk about here. We are covering In Your House 1, which took place in Syracuse, New York on May 14th, 1995. It only had an attendance of 7,000, but when you think about what was going on in the times, that's a pretty good house. Houses were down all around this time. Like, this is when the WWF was still running high school gyms, if you can believe that. Now we look at them going to Cowboy Stadium and be like, how the hell did we miss the chance to go to our local high school and see them there? But I'm going to turn things over to Jay right now because I'm sure he has a lot to talk about this. So, Jay, floor is yours, bud.
Well, thank you very much, my friend. And you are right. It did take place on May 14th, 1995 at the Onondaga County Memorial, War Memorial, rather. It was not a promising time in the company. In Your House was a new pay-per-view concept that was a departure from the Big Five. We had the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. It was a new 2-hour event that was at a reduced price of $14.95 US. It was also an attempt to recover some of the lost income from the declining Coliseum video returns as well as syndication rights. There's also some speculation that this was an answer to WCW running monthly pay-per-views. They were up to about 10 at this point. And the thinking was that, if Turner can do it, why can't we? We're the more established brand. I think their fear was market saturation, but WCW had proved out by this point that you were able to sustain these pay-per-views and the people would pay for them. So it's really an interesting sort of examination to go back into this time. Imagine in 1995, running monthly pay-per-views would oversaturate the market. It's amazing how much the business has changed, where we have just in the WWE alone, close to 10 to 12 hours a week of weekly television. Eventually, the event was increased to 3 hours, which was ground zero in September of 1997. And thus the cost increased to the same price point as the other tentpole events. This kind of moved the needle for the WWE and was attributed to having a major impact on the financial recovery of Titan Sports in 1997, and would allow Vince to rescind his previous position with Bret Hart. I don't know if you recall, but on September 22nd, 1997, in the first Raw's War at Madison Square Garden, Vince held a meeting with Bret Hart in which he stated that he was unable to honor his contract to Bret, citing that Titan was, quote, in financial peril. So that sort of changed the fortunes, and that kind of boon to the company's financials allowed him to go back and say that he could, in fact, honor the contract. But that's another story for another day. Just thought it was an interesting tidbit. I want to say from a personal note that In Your House is in the conversation for me for top pay-per-view concepts ever. I just love it. It's right up there with me. It's in my top 5 of all pay-per-views concepts that have ever taken place. If you look at the history of the event, some of the greatest matches from the era and in the history of the promotion took place at In Your House. So Tyrone, I'm going to let you take the floor here. Do you have anything to say about what I've sort of spoken about thus far?
I mean, I'm going to disagree with you on In Your House being one of the best pay-per-view concepts. I think it was great for the time. I really, really like the fact that they were only 2 hours. You were showcasing, on average, probably 5 matches. The guys got some time. I love the original set design. But when you say some of the best matches happen at In Your House, I do have a question for you about that. Are you just talking In Your House with the numbers attached, or are you talking the ones with the taglines as well? Are we talking about the ones that went 3 hours, or are you just strictly going off of like In Your House 1 through 5 or 7? I'm going to take the radio silence that he gave me there as a, he's
Sorry
only talking about the new generation.
I had a little technical issue there. Sorry about that. I'm more talking about, I would think, from the beginning of In Your House to say, through till the end of 97. I think by the time we got into 98, yeah, I mean, there still were branded as In Your House pay-per-views, but they were the Unforgivens and the Judgment Days and things of that nature. So we can certainly talk about those, but I'm more talking more along the lines of the ones that were called In Your House and had the In Your House set. I don't necessarily want to talk about numbered ones, but I do have a list of matches here that I want to just briefly run through in terms of matches that I think. Sorry, go ahead. Before you
do that, can I just throw out a few, because I don't have a list in front of me and I don't want to make it seem like I'm piggybacking off of any of the ones that you say, can I just throw out a few that I think are phenomenal?
By all means.
So I got to go with Shawn and Davey at Beware Dog.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's not even on my list.
I got to go with Mankind and Shawn at Mind Games.
Yeah, so that match is on my list, and that's something I think we need to talk about for a minute. I mean, arguably the best match of the year in the WWF. If the finish was different, it would be number one in my book without question. But, I mean, if you're going to talk about a match that you could have headlined any of the tentpole pay-per-views with, this is the one.
Oh, 100%. Like, it told such a great story, period. There was great in-ring. You had a bit of hardcore action. It was just fantastic. Now, I don't want to not talk about this anymore, but I do need to keep my train of thought going before I forget here. Sure. Bret Hart and Hakushi from this event, I think, is fantastic.
Yep,
and
without question.
Obviously, when I think In Your House, there are two matches that come to my mind that are infamous. One for all the wrong reasons and one for all the right reasons. We'll start with the good, and that is the initial Hell in a Cell. Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. I know we're getting the later In Your Houses, but it was still branded as an In Your House. And for all the wrong reasons, we're still in a cell, but we're talking about the Kettle from Hell.
Okay, yeah, that was Unforgiven. I don't think it was actually branded as Unforgiven. That was in 99. The last In Your House branded event was actually Backlash 1999. And that was headlined by the Rock and Steve Austin. Pardon?
Just fuck me then.
No, but I mean, if you want to talk about Shawn versus Taker, I mean, there's been a lot of Hell in the Cell matches. I think that it was a slow burn in the beginning with Hell in the Cell. We didn't see it too often in the beginning. I mean, we saw the first Hell in a Cell in October of 97, and then we didn't see the second real Hell in a Cell until King of the Ring 98. Now, they had done a Hell in a Cell match on Raw, I believe, 2 weeks beforehand. It was a tag team match with Austin and Taker versus Kane and Mankind, but it wasn't really like a pay-per-view match. It was a television match, so it was full of plunder and schmoz and all that kind of thing. So I still think that the first Hell in a Cell holds up as the best one. I mean, everybody talks about Mick and Taker at King of the Ring.
That's just it. Like, when you think Hell in a Cell, you think Mankind being thrown off the roof, being tossed through the roof and all that. Like, you just kind of said that the one on Raw was not really a Hell in a Cell match. It was all about the schmoz. I don't think you can get more schmoz than Taker and Foley at King of the Ring 98, period.
Well, I think sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, my top three Hell in a Cell matches, bar none, are always going to be the original one with Shawn and Taker, No Way Out 2000 with Foley and Triple H, and I can't remember the exact pay-per-view of it, but Triple H and Chris Jericho.
I believe that was Judgment Day 2002. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember, but
no, Judgment Day 2002 was Hogan and Taker, so if that was on the same pay-per-view, then
yeah, I think it was. I don't hold the Cactus Jack and Triple H Hell in a Cell in quite of a high regard as you do. I think it was a good match. I've always sort of maintained, for me personally, I mean, this is the nature of our show. We do revisionist history, and we rebook the territory. I would have preferred to have Cactus go out on that Royal Rumble match, the street fight, and then maybe you have him off for a couple of months if you're going to bring him back for WrestleMania, or you don't. Either way, the Hell in the Cell in No Way Out of 2000 was amazing. Don't misunderstand me, but I think it's overshadowed in my mind's eye by that street fight. It's not going to get better for me than that street fight between Triple H and Cactus Jack. I mean, that was the match that you weren't going to get any better than that in my mind. So
and we agreed on that. Like, we touched on that a couple of weeks ago with our 2000 podcast, WrestleMania 2000, and yeah, we both pretty much said the exact same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to bring it home here with the Hell in a Cell conversation is, yeah, I still think that the first one with Undertaker and Shawn holds up. I mean, also the thing that sometimes gets glossed over is it was the debut of Kane. So, I thought it was an outstanding match, and there was so much psychology to it. So I really, really appreciated that. From there, there's a couple of other ones I want to touch on here. I want to, of course, talk about, the Undertaker and Mankind at Buried Alive. Buried Alive in October of 1996 was the pay-per-view at Indianapolis, Indiana. Absolutely adored that match. It was, told a great story. It was indicative of the kind of heat and hot button issue that these two guys had. You were just coming off of SummerSlam with Paul Bearer turning on the Undertaker and siding with Mankind. As gimmick matches go, I think that this was really well executed. I really have a soft spot in my heart for Buried Alive. How do you feel about Buried Alive?
As far as gimmick matches go, it's one of the dumbest gimmick matches to me because you're not burying somebody alive. They're not dying in that grave. It's not what it is. Like, the match itself was great. The one thing I do love about it is Terry Gordy playing the Executioner. I love that whole thing too. But God damn it, I'm okay if we never see another Buried Alive match again.
Oh, I agree with you. I think for the time it was revolutionary. And I think that it all has to do with, it's so similar to acting or really wrestling in general that it depends on the commitment level. The reason this match worked for me so well was because both guys committed to it. I mean, on its face, on paper, it sounds ridiculous. But the way that these two guys went into the match with the kind of stakes and sincere, kind of concern for their well-being or lack thereof really sold this match to me. And I think if you go back and watch this, it would be so easy to make this match not work based on the reactions or the inflections of the performers in it. But I think that they committed. It's so similar to the Undertaker in general as a character. If the Undertaker, Mark Calloway, hadn't committed to the character the way he did, it would never have lasted as long as it had. It would have been a flash in the pan. And I think that's indicative of his work throughout his career and in these kinds of matches. Same thing with a casket match. So I really think that this match in particular, the first one, just as we spoke of the first Hell in a Cell, I think that this first Buried Alive match, if you're going to watch any Buried Alive match, this is the one to watch.
Okay, yeah, you're setting the bar real high by saying that. Just if you're going to watch any Buried Alive match, watch this one. You mean don't watch Vince and Taker? Okay, no problem. I have a question for you, though, because I know you're going through a couple of matches right now. Do any of your matches on this list not involve either Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, or Mick Foley?
No. I mean, I can name some.
I had a feeling.
Sorry, go ahead.
I really hope that there's one match that I'm really, 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 really hoping that you're going to talk about because I purposely didn't say it. And if you don't, I'm actually going to be hot at you.
Okay. Well, another match on my card, or not on my card, but on my list here is Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog at Seasons Beating, December 1995. This match, to me, arguably is better than Wembley. It was a phenomenal match. Do you have any recollection of this one?
Honestly, not really. It's been a while since I've seen that one, but I know just from, again, we all know I'm not a big Bret Hart fan, but I can respect the hell out of him. And you put Bret and Davey in the ring, and 9 times out of 10, it's magic. So I can imagine it's fantastic.
Yeah, there was a hard way there, and Bret just did color like you wouldn't believe. There was blood everywhere. I guess we have to touch on this one. It's a classic. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's Shawn Michaels versus Diesel in a no holds barred match at Good Friends.
This is the one. Yeah, this is the one I was waiting for you to fucking touch on. This is essentially the reason our show is named what it is. So God damn it, if this wasn't there, we would have had a problem.
Oh, 100%. This was a great match. I mean, I'll never forget that spot where Diesel took the prosthetic leg off of Mad Dog Vachon and tried to hit Shawn with it. And then Shawn was doing the old tap on his boots like he was winding up for a grand slam and just knocked Diesel out. This event was great too because we had Razor Ramon's last appearance on WWF television on the pay-per-view, and he faced Vader. He did the job to Vader, and that was a fun little match. I kind of like. It's one of those matches that on paper sounds fun. Do you have any memories of that one?
Of the Vader, like of the card or of the main event?
Of anything from this particular event?
I definitely remember the main event. Like the Mad Dog Vachon spot is something that probably shouldn't have happened, but I'm really glad it did happen. You don't see that very often. You don't see a 7-foot man rip off the prosthetic leg of a legend and try to beat his best friend with it. It is freaking incredible. I love every second of it. Again, it's no shock that I'm not a big Kevin Nash fan, but you want to talk Kevin Nash's best matches? This is top 2, 100%.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll definitely give you that. I think it's up there with Bret and Diesel from Survivor Series the year previous. There's a couple of other.
That's the only other one that's in the conversation.
Okay. I have a couple of other ones here quick before we get onto the rebooking of the card. One of my favorite pay-per-views ever, not just In Your Houses, but ever, is In Your House Revenge of the Taker on April 20th, 1997. It took place in Rochester, New York. I love the feel of this card. There's something about the aesthetic. They didn't set up the whole house set. They just had the garage, which I thought was super cool. They didn't have the In Your House aprons. They had the old blue WWF aprons that they used to have on Monday Night Raw. I don't know. There's something about this event that I just absolutely love. There's 2 matches on this card that really stick out in my mind. The first one being The Undertaker versus Mankind. That was The Undertaker's first pay-per-view title defense since he won the championship at WrestleMania 13 versus Sid. There was a crazy spot where The Undertaker hit Mankind, who was standing on the apron on the outside of the ropes with the steel steps. And Mankind did a headfirst dive through a table. Like, I don't know how they gimmicked that table or what they did, but he literally went head first through a table. It was unbelievable. Do you remember that?
No, I'm not gonna lie. With the In Your House pay-per-views, like I've glanced through them, but I can't tell you other than this one. The last time I sat down and really watched a full one. Actually, that's a lie. I can tell you the last time I watched a full one. It was the Great White North, I think it was called. It was in Winnipeg. And I mainly watched it to see the train wreck of Yokozuna and Mabel. But going back to Revenge of Taker, no, I don't think I've actually seen that card. But I promise you I will go back and watch it.
Yes, please do. I mean, there's some stuff on there, as all In Your Houses have, that, it's not, there's going to be some stuff that's, there's Billy Gunn versus Road Dogg, and, there's Savio Vega versus Rocky Maivia. But you also have the Legion of Doom versus Bulldog and Owen, and we all know that Bulldog and Owen is my favorite tag team of all time. So it was a really good card. It was fun. I highly recommend you go back and watch it, and especially like you alluded to earlier, if you look at the length of the cards, I mean, they're a shade under 2 hours. I think this one was, an hour and 47 or 48 minutes. So, it's not that long of an investment of time either. The other match on this card that I loved was the rematch from WrestleMania 13 with Bret Hart and Steve Austin. This was really, really well done as well. Great psychology. You'll see the story as it unfolds throughout the evening of how they tell this story and how they had to rework the card to get this match on the card. It was just a lot of fun. So it's kind of like a near and dear, close personal thing to my heart, and I just absolutely adore it. So I always go out of my way to watch it every year. And then the final match.
Now, I was going to say, can I take a wild guess at what your final match is that you want to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Are there 10 people involved in it?
There most certainly are.
Are 5 of those people from a certain foundation up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada?
Why don't you go ahead and take the lead on this? I'm going to let you talk to me about this match.
Okay, so obviously we're talking about In Your House Canadian Stampede with the Hart Foundation taking on, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but Goldust, Steve Austin, the Legion of Doom, and Ken Shamrock?
You got it.
Hell fucking yeah, I did. This one is one of those ones that is the perfect definition of watching Bret Hart when he is booed one night before or two nights before in somewhere in the States, and then you bring them to Calgary, and my God, you want to talk over. Like, we're talking, take Jim Ross in Oklahoma, take Jerry Lawler in Memphis, take Stone Cold Steve Austin in Texas, take The Undertaker in Hell, add them all together, and you get a fraction of what Bret Hart was on this night. The ground was literally shaking, as they say. I have goosebumps on my arms talking about this right now, and I'm not a Bret Hart fan. That should tell you guys something.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, if you look at the event, I mean, even just the pops coming out of like for the entrances was outstanding. The match itself went about 45 minutes. It was just, and then of course you had all the Hart family go into the ring after the match. Also on this card, you had Triple H versus Mankind, which was a rematch from the King of the Ring. You had The Undertaker versus Vader, who was subbing for a injured Ahmed Johnson. So an interesting time in the company as well. Do you have any other memories of the match at all?
I just remember at the end of the match when it was all said and done and all the Hart family and whatnot were in the ring. Because I remember watching this one actually on pay-per-view with my dad. And I looked over at my dad and legit went, how big is the family? Is this actually the population of Calgary in the ring right now? And it actually got a pop out of him. So it makes me smile to this day.
I love that. That's an awesome story. It's great to hear stuff like that. It's always amazing when you can emotionally connect to the matches and the pay-per-views that we rebook, isn't it?
I mean, you and I have an emotional connection to, at least one of us has a connection to pretty much everything we do, with the exception of maybe last week's not the greatest episode ever of Slamboree 98. That may have been our what the hell are we doing here moment. But when it comes to this era, I mean, the In Your House eras, I was in between the ages of like 9 and 12. So I was kind of the demographic for half of it and then nowhere near the demographic for the other half.
Yeah, and exactly, like that's going back to like my emotional connection with Revenge of the Taker. Was I remember WrestleMania 13 was the first ever pay-per-view that I was allowed to order when I was a kid. And my mom, back in the day, used to have to go to Rogers and get, Rogers is a cable provider here in the Greater Toronto area and actually in Canada. And used to have to go and get these pay-per-view boxes that you would rent. And then you would order the pay-per-views and then you would take them back home, or rather back to the store when you're done with them. And I remember that we had gotten it for WrestleMania 13. And then we were going to bring it back, I think, the following week. After the In Your House Revenge of the Taker. And I convinced my mom, I got her on a good day, and she said, yeah, it's okay, go ahead and rent it. So I rented it, and I watched it with both my brothers. And I just have this memory of this being the first ever wrestling event that I watched with both my brothers. So it has a lot of emotional connection for me. And I just remember it being so fun. We were all kind of like sitting on the same bed. It was a king-size bed. We were all sort of sitting there together watching it. And, you know, I was so excited. So that's probably a big part of the reason why I love that card so much.
That's totally fair. I love hearing shit like that about us being fans as kids and still believing it's real and all that fun jazz. But I don't know if you got anything else you want to talk about before we get into the rebooking. You let me know, and then we'll go into it.
I think we're ready to go, bud. I'm ready to go. I've been waxing nostalgic about In Your House long enough. It's never long enough for me, you know that. As long as I keep getting a good cold drink into me, I can keep going. So I figure it's probably time for us to get into this rebooking. What do you say?
All right, let's do it. So before we get into the rebooking itself, a traditional thing that the WWF did with the In Your House cards is because they were only 2 hours, they had dark matches before and after. So I'm quickly going to run down those dark matches right now. They weren't on the card, but before the card, we had Jean-Pierre Lafitte defeat Bob Holly. And after the card, you had The Undertaker defeat Kama, Bam Bam Bigelow defeat Tatanka, and Owen Hart and the British Bulldog going to a draw in a King of the Ring qualifying match. I think that's fun. But let's get into the goddamn card. Our opening contest of In Your House 1. is one of my favorite In Your House matches ever. Bret the Hitman Hart taking on Hakushi, who has the ever-famous Shinja in his corner.
Well, the one quick thing I just want to add on to what you were just saying is that I agree that for an in-your-house concept, you don't need to load every card with top stars in the company. I think especially with somebody like an Undertaker, it makes sense to keep them as an attraction, especially in 1995. You don't need to have them on every card. That's the reason why the Undertaker would only wrestle once a month on Raw. You want to try to keep them special. But I thought for the purposes of this inaugural event, I felt as though it was super important to load this card. So that way when people order it and it's their first attempt at this kind of concept, people really feel like they got their money's worth and actually more than their money's worth watching it. So I'm putting all hands on deck on this one.
All right. Well, I'm excited to see if I get my $15 worth. What do you got for me for the opening contest, Jay?
Well, we have Bret the Hitman Hart taking on Hakushi. It's actually going to be the exact same match. It was an excellent opener, an outstanding match. I've only changed the finish. And what I've done here is I've changed it as Jerry Lawler distracts Bret, allowing Hakushi to get the pin with a springboard leg drop. This is going to add some fuel to the fire with the Lawler and Hitman match that's coming up, and that's going to finally blow off their big feud in the coming weeks. Bret is going to get his win back from Hakushi on the following week's Raw as an advertised rematch from the pay-per-view. I just kind of feel like I didn't need to see Bret wrestle 2 matches on this card. I thought that there were better ways to utilize the space allotted on the pay-per-view. So why not just amalgamate the 2 angles and have Jerry Lawler cost him the win here?
I am so good with this. I mean, it doesn't hurt Bret Hart to lose. You have Hakushi, who is a Japanese legend. For those of you who don't know, his name is Jinsei Shinzaki. He's been around. Like, you ask anyone in Japan who's a wrestling fan who this guy is, they're going to give you a huge, huge, huge history lesson. He wrestled for All Japan, New Japan, FMW. Like, he did it all. He's kind of the, I don't want to say like Terry Funk of Japan, but he's not Jushin Liger, but he's better and worse at the same time, if that makes any sense. So I am all about this. Thank you so much for that one, Jay. Well, he doesn't like my thanks because he's Jay's.
I'm sorry, I keep on having technical issues.
Yeah, he's going to blame it on technical issues, but we all know that Jay's the actual dickhead, and I'm the one that is actually a nice guy. But we'll let y'all decide that. Yeah. All right, cool. Do you want to move on to the next one then, since you laid that one out pretty good, and I gave you a raving review?
That sounds great. Let's do that. The next match I have on the card is Savio Vega versus the Roadie. So if Savio wins, Razor Ramon will receive one final title opportunity from Jeff Jarrett for the Intercontinental Championship. So in canon, Savio Vega debuted at this pay-per-view, and he made the save for Razor Ramon. It originally supposed to be the 1-2-3 Kid and Razor versus the Roadie and Jeff Jarrett. But the 1-2-3 Kid actually broke his neck and was legitimately out for quite a while here. So what I've done is I've moved the debut of Savio back to the Go Home Raw for the pay-per-view. And so Razor confronts the duo in a segment on Raw and was the victim of a beatdown at the hands of Jarrett and the Roadie. Savio makes the save out of nowhere, and Razor and Savio agree to the stip proposed to them by Jarrett. Jarrett agrees to the match, and it's all signed. I definitely feel like this would be a much more effective way to get Savio the rub. Vega has a very impressive showing and runs through the Roadie in short order. The story in the match is basically that the Roadie was completely unprepared for the skills of Vega. Savio goes over with a spinning heel kick, and the match with Razor and Jeff Jarrett's going to go forward.
I mean, I don't hate it. I get what you did there. You kind of, in your mind, made a better debut for Savio Vega. I didn't hate the debut of Savio Vega here, but what you did there kind of makes sense, putting a title shot on the line for Razor. But at the same time, I never, ever liked that whole thing. It's like, why am I fighting for somebody else to get a title shot when if I just won, shouldn't I be the one in line for the next title shot? Like, do you get what I mean there?
Oh, 100% I do. I just think that because Savio had just debuted, it didn't make sense for him to be a number one contender. It was more along the lines of Savio being Razor's friend and trying to win the opportunity for him. So that's kind of the way I felt about it. I just thought that it was a little too early to just announce Savio versus Jeff Jarrett for the Intercontinental Championship. I thought that this kind of made sense. You're fighting for your friend, fighting for the opportunity. And then from there, you go into, the match that's going to happen next.
So I take it up next. We have Jeff Jarrett and Razor Ramon for the Intercontinental title.
That's right, my friend.
All right, lay it down. What do we have going on here? Do we have Razor going on for yet another win? Do we have Jarrett getting the surprise victory? What do we got happening?
So what I have here is the match picks up right where the feud left off. It's a fast-paced Razor looking for revenge. Jarrett nails Savio with a guitar on the outside of the ring. As the ref is watching what's unfolding outside, the Roadie clotheslines the official from behind, knocking him out. It would then become a glorified handicap match with both Roadie and Double J beating down Razor. Razor fires up and is able to hold his own until the Roadie clips his knee, very similar to what happened at the Royal Rumble. And Jarrett secures the figure 4 on. Savio then comes to and breaks up the hold just as Razor looks to be at his breaking point. With a spent Razor clutching his knee, Savio nails Roadie with another heel kick, sending him sailing over the top rope. Savio follows the Roadie to the floor and hammers him. Jarrett takes advantage of a prone Razor and hits him with a Russian leg sweep for the slow pin by this dazed Jack Doan. This effectively ends Razor's title chase, but Savio Vega might be next in line. We'll find out. The winner and still Intercontinental Champion, Double J Jeff Jarrett.
I am a giant Razor Ramon, Mark. You know that. But I really respect this booking. I don't think the title should have been taken off of Jarrett. I always like a heel champ. It makes the babyface chase a little bit better, especially in this era. Jeff Jarrett you wanted to hate him. He was what a heel should be. You wanted to boo the fuck out of that guy. Nobody liked him. He was this cocky brass, thought he could sing, thought he could wrestle better than anyone else, just wanted to be alone with his baby tonight, and we hated him for it. And God damn it, do I love him for it now as a grown-ass man. I guess we're having more technical difficulties, so I'm just going to start going, spend my days working hard on the go.
Okay, I'm just going to stop muting myself. See, what happens is I keep muting myself so I don't make noise while you're talking, and then when I try to unmute myself, my screen goes blank. So I'm just going to stop muting myself. Never thought I'd say that.
All right, are you going to sing along with me now, though?
Spend my days working hard
on the go, but the clock's on the hand keeps spinning too slow. I can't wait to be alone with my baby tonight. We are literally just ripping off every podcast that we can these days, aren't we?
Yeah, but we do it much worse, in fairness.
That's true. We are the terrible, terrible, terrible version of everybody else, but you love us for it.
Absolutely. I'm having fun tonight, buddy. This is really fun for me. Thank you so much for joining me and having a cold drink and talking about the new generation era. So, are you ready to go on to the next one?
Only if it's still Mabel and Adam Bomb, because come on.
Certainly is not.
But it was a King of the Ring qualifying match, Jay, and Mabel would win the King of the Ring. What are we going to do with Mabel right now?
I don't know. It's close to Mother's Day, and it was MOM, so... Actually, it was Mother's Day this day, so maybe he took the day off to be with his mom.
And it was actually Mother's Day yesterday, bud. Way to get your days straight.
I spend my days working hard on the go. Can't remember them all.
Jesus Christ. Okay, what do you have next, motherfucker?
Next, I have a King of the Ring qualifying match. I have The Undertaker going up against Rick the Model Martel.
All right, I'm going to assume that Taker wins this, but I like what you're doing so far. So walk me through how the Model and the Dead Man dance together.
So Martel was going to leave the company in early 1995, right after the Royal Rumble, but he wasn't signed anywhere else. So I kind of felt like it might be more of an enticing way to have Martel stick around for a few more months, doing the honors for The Undertaker on the very first ever In Your House pay-per-view. It would be a much better send-off for him and his storied career than just leaving the WWE or WWF rather, with just like completely quiet, like with a whimper. There was no mention of it really made. So I kind of thought that this would be a better way to showcase him and, get him one last pay-per-view payoff. Martel would bump for The Undertaker as the Reaper stalked his opponent. The model would then gain the upper hand as Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine, attempted to distract the man from the dark side with the urn he had stolen from him and Paul Bear at WrestleMania 11 and melted into a necklace. Taker exits the ring and takes Kama to task and sort of beats him down. He gets back into the ring at the count of 9. Taker then regains the upper hand and delivers a chokeslam tombstone pile driver for the win, and with the Undertaker advancing into the King of the Ring tournament.
No surprise there whatsoever. I don't hate it. I like that you got Rick Martel on the card. I like that we're still seeing Kama on the card. I love Kama. What can I say? Charles Wright sent me a cameo for my birthday one year. He's all right by me.
Nice. I like that. I like Kama as well. I don't mind the odd apostrophe.
No.
Nothing.
Semicolons only.
Not a full colon. Okay, well, the next.
Oh, mine's full right now. If you want to know.
Yeah, well, we can take a break if you like.
No. I'm good. We're talking about new generation, so it's pretty much the same thing.
Oh boy, I walked right into that, didn't I?
You sure did, bud. You sure did. All right. Next up, do we still have a tag team title match?
We certainly do.
Is it still Owen and Yoko and the Smoking Guns, or are we taking the guns off?
We're gonna do the WWF Tag Team Championship. We're gonna do Owen Hart and Yokozuna defending the titles versus the Allied Powers.
All right. So last week on our WCW episode, we kind of talked about Luger and how he didn't really do anything in the Fed after Mania 10. So here we are. Mania 11 would have happened, 2 months prior to this, a month and a half before this. Yep. They were on that card. They beat the Blue Brothers. And we're looking at what? It was 95 that Luger debuted in Nitro, right? Like the opening Nitro was in 95?
September 4th, 1995, yeah.
So are you actually giving Lex Luger WWF gold here, or is it more reason for him to leave?
Well, here's what I've got. After defeating the Blues Brothers at WrestleMania 11, the Allied Powers have secured the number 1 contendership. The Smoking Guns had already exercised their rematch clause.
May I interrupt for 1 second here?
Sure.
It's the Blue Brothers. I don't want people to think that they beat Dan Aykroyd and Jim Belushi. John Belushi. Yes.
Sorry.
It's the Blue Brothers, not the Blues.
My apologies. So the Smoking Guns had already exercised their rematch clause on Monday Night Raw. So it's a match of power versus speed, with Bulldog and Owen doing much of the work. Yoko and Owen would isolate Luger for a period of the match until the Bulldog gets the hot tag. Davey works on both Owen and Yoko with alternating hard right hands and then clotheslines Yoko outside the ring. He then presses Owen onto Yoko onto the outside. Both Owen and Yoko are counted out, and this is setting us up for a rematch down the line. So I have the Allied Powers going over by double count out.
How do you go over on a double count out?
Or sorry, both tag team, like both Owen and Yoko were counted out.
I get what you meant. You just screwed up your English language there. I mean, actors, right? If they're not pretty, what are they?
Well, thank you. I guess. I don't know.
Oh, God. I got to rip on you somehow because you're doing a good job rebooking this. So come on, give me something.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't hate it. I kind of would have preferred the Guns versus the Allied Powers, but I get getting Bulldog on there. It's fine. I feel like the next match is where we're going. The next couple matches are where you and I are going to fucking scream at each other.
But see, here's where I'm going with this though. I kind of thought that you can start planting seeds, not here yet, but maybe in the rematch. If you do this match again with Bulldog and Luger versus Owen and Yoko, I feel like we could definitely do a breakup angle. And I don't know if anybody wants to see Luger versus Bulldog, but I could see it being on an In Your House in July or even at SummerSlam that year. I think that would be a good way to get both guys on the card. They're both stars, so I kind of feel like we could see a breakup here, and that's maybe when Davey turns heel. Davey turned heel in Canada at SummerSlam 1990, or rather the week before SummerSlam 1995. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't do it earlier and then have this blow-off match.
Yeah, but SummerSlam 95 gave us Luger and Tatanka, right, with that whole gimmick, so you're going to get rid of that whole feud then,
That was
right?
94.
Oh, shit, never mind that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not mad at this then.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, Jay. Well, the next match is one of the reasons why I didn't want to do this show, but fuck it. It's Jerry Lawler and Bret Hart. I'm going to let you just talk your ass off about this one, and then I'm going to shit all over it.
Well, this match didn't happen, as we alluded to at the top of the rebooking. So what I've done here is I'm going to have Sid versus Shawn Michaels. So Shawn was legitimately injured after the 5 power bombs delivered by Sid the night after WrestleMania 11. He would return the night after this pay-per-view at the Raw taping. So I thought, why not just do this match on the pay-per-view? It never really got a blow-off other than an Intercontinental Championship match on Raw in September, which was far too long to wait for this match to happen. I understand your feelings about Sid, but if you're going to have Sid powerbomb Shawn Michaels 5 times, kind of need to have some kind of a follow-up to that. I don't want to wait till September for it to happen. Originally, it was supposed to be at SummerSlam, but then they changed it to the ladder match with Razor, which I'm totally fine with. So Shawn would work as a baby face and sell the back all match long. Sid would hit him with a powerbomb and take way too long playing to the crowd until placing his foot on Shawn's chest for the pin. Shawn kicks out, sells being half conscious as Sid picks him up in an attempt to hit another powerbomb. Shawn quickly moves back and hits Sid with a sweet chin music in the middle of the ring to get the pin. And you have the winner and one of your new top baby faces in the company, Shawn Michaels.
I definitely prefer this over Sid being in the main event, so I'll take it. Yeah, it makes sense. It was a feud that needed a blow off, like you said. But I feel like this is going to be a sidebar here, but there have been quite a few Shawn feuds that never got the blow off they needed. The other one that comes to mind is Marty Jannetty. Like, we had a couple of matches here and there, but we never got the big pay-per-view blow off. You know what? I'm okay with this. You did Sid right by this. You had him lose to Shawn.
Well, the thing here too is like going back to Shawn and Marty, like that was supposed to happen at WrestleMania 9, but then Marty flunked a drug test, I believe, and then that was sort of the end. We did see the match at Royal Rumble 93, if I'm not mistaken. That wasn't really a blow-off, though. It was more of just, the two of them going after the Intercontinental Championship. I think there was another chapter.
Yeah, it was just more... Yeah, it was more fuel for the fire. It was building to what should have been a great Mania match.
100%. But I think that also you have to look at sometimes there's a window for certain things. Then that's exactly why I put this match on the card with Shawn and Sid. Like, there's a window that you have to blow these things off. If you were to do this match at, like, I don't know, Survivor Series 1993 or something like that, the blow off with Shawn and Marty, like, would anybody care at that point? So I kind of feel as though you have a window to blow these things off, and then people's interest kind of wanes. So that's why I wanted to get this match on right away. It was still a hot angle. You just powerbombed Shawn 5 times on Raw. You got to get this match in the ring, and you can't wait till September to do it, in my mind.
Yeah, I get the reasoning behind it, but just to go back to what you said about Shawn and Marty at Survivor Series, I think people would have cared about that a lot. I think that would have been a great match no matter what, but for reasons it didn't happen. I understand. But going back to what you just did, yeah, this is the first time you'll ever hear me say this, but I'm cool with Sid being in this spot. There is no problem whatsoever.
Nice. I like it.
Well, now I'm curious as to what you have for our main event. Are we at our main event, or do you have something else?
Well, next up we have Todd, Pettingell, and Stephanie Wyan giving away a house.
Oh, I forgot about this infamous segment and trying to get people on the line and everything. Like, wasn't it a kid that won the house?
Yeah, it was a kid in Nevada, I believe, and they actually caught up with him, and they end up, I guess they had the house for a bit, and then they sold it and used that to pay for his college education. So, for any kid out there that's listening to this, if your parents ever give you grief about watching wrestling, say, well, I could win a house and pay for my education, so let me watch.
You could sell the Good Friends Better Enemies gingerbread house and pay for your college education. I don't know how. I genuinely don't know how, but it could happen. There could be somebody out there that really wants it, and by God, you could be going to Stanford.
I could see it only if they're allergic to ginger and you and I sold it, then got sued for everything we're worth. They could maybe get, like, I don't know, like an education from DeVry or something.
I was going more like Everest, where if money isn't right, but money isn't tight, you can go there.
Yeah, that's right. I definitely want to be a dental hygienist. Alrighty. Well, with that being said, we're on to the main event of the evening.
All right, so we have Kevin Nash, Diesel, sorry, Toot. He's defending the title, and I'm trying to think of who's on the roster right now, and I think I know where you're going, but by God, don't steer me wrong, Jay. What do we got here?
The main event of the very first In Your House pay-per-view is Big Daddy Cool Diesel going up against Bam Bam Bigelow.
That's exactly what I thought you were going to do, and motherfucker, I love you right now.
All right, so I'm going to walk you through this. This angle had taken place actually on April 24th, the edition of Raw on April 24th. That's when the $1 Million Corporation actually turned on Bam Bam. I'm like, why are we doing this here? Let's do it on the pay-per-view. So I have pushed this back to the pay-per-view. I feel as though this would have been a very effective way and a much better way to turn Bam Bam face. It's a classic big man match with the added attraction of Bam Bam's aerial offense. You get a moonsault, you get a near fall, you get a standing enziguri. That's going to be another near fall. Diesel muscles the Beast from the East up for the jackknife powerbomb for the win. After losing the match and a losing effort, that was littered with blatant corporate interference by the $1 Million Corporation. On Bigelow's behalf, Ted DiBiase directs the corporate members to attack Bigelow and leave him in a heap. DiBiase would explain in a promo the next night on Raw that this was one too many losses for Bam Bam, and if he couldn't beat LT or bring the title to the corporation, he's worthless to him. So much like The Rock and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania X8, Diesel returns to help Bigelow and clears the ring. Bam Bam turns face, and the issues between Diesel and the $1 Million Corporation are brought to another level. And your winner, and still World Wrestling Federation champion, Big Daddy Cool Diesel.
Oh, Jay, you know how much of a Bammer mark I am, and I mean, let's call a spade right now. I'm pretty sure we're both vaccinated right now, so I think we can. I think I can kiss you. I think I can give you a big old kiss on the mouth right now and say, I love you for doing this. I don't know why I ever doubted you when it comes to rebooking a new generation pay-per-view, but my God, did you do a fantastic job today.
Well, thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate that. I know you're not blowing smoke. So I appreciate that very much, because if anybody would call me into question or take me to task for something that they didn't care for, it would be you. So I greatly appreciate that. And it was a labor of love for me. I'll always love going back and watching these In Your Houses and rebooking them. And I'm super stoked for doing the next one, whenever it might be.
Oh no, I think I should get to do the next In Your House just to see how badly I screw that up by your behalf.
Oh boy. Okay, well that might be fun. I guess since you made me rebook ECW, you can rebook an In Your House. That's kind of fair.
Actually, I just want to throw out a funny little side note on the ECW one. So my beautiful wife Lauren does all of our artwork for our posters and everything like that. And when I told her the name of the pay-per-view she had to do, she's like, I can't Google search Barely Legal. Things are gonna pop up that shouldn't pop up. It was it was quite the banner moment over here in the household that we live in.
Yes, without question. It was. I remember actually getting a text from you about the name, and actually I texted a little bit back and forth with your wife as well, and I was assuring her that it would be okay to Google search the name of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I just kind of told her to put the 3 letters of ECW in front of it, and then everything's fine. You won't end up on a watch list.
Exactly. That's exactly right, my friend.
I gotta say, Jay, you did 95 In Your House 1 quite well. You killed this, man. Like, I'm really happy that there's no Jerry Lawler on the pay-per-view. I know that that's upsetting to you to hear. I love what you did with the main event. I love that we had Sid and Shawn. I'll even take the fact that the Allied Powers replaced the Smoking Guns. I am bent out of shape that we didn't see Mabel and Adam Bomb, though. That's the only thing that makes me sad.
Yeah, well, maybe it was one of those dark matches you alluded to.
I mean, it's a King of the Ring qualifying match. So back then they could have been like, "Oh, this happened in oh God, what's a smaller town? Help me out here. In Bradford, Ontario, at a TV taping. This was what happened." It's like, "Oh, okay, cool. What do we have to not believe?"
Exactly. 100%. I'm right there with you.
I know I wasn't going on my dial-up modem and getting on America Online back then and spending half an hour to be like, is this true? Oh my God, did this really happen? I wouldn't care. And I'd be like, yeah, cool, Mabel, go. Do it up, bud.
Yeah. Absolutely. We would do that for sure. No question.
Well, you did well, bud, but I got to know what do you have for me next week? Because I got some big shoes to fill on this one.
Well, I have something kind of fun for you. We're going to go back to the Fed. We're going to go to the WWE this time. And just a spoiler alert here that we do typically discuss these events ahead of time, but I'm going to throw Tyrone a little curveball here live on the air. So,
wait,
you're next.
I've done that. No, I've done this to you before, and it hasn't always worked out. I get angry text messages and things like that. What are you doing to me, bud? Can you give me the year first, and then I can try and figure out what you're doing?
2003.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Ravens winning everything.
You are rebooking Judgment Day 2003 next week, my friend.
Judgment Day 2003. Oh my God. Oh God. Oh
Triple H
God.
and Kevin Nash on top.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh. Fuck you.
If one week of Nash is good, two's got to be better, right?
This isn't the Hell in the Cell one, right? That was Bad Blood. This is just
That was Bad Blood.
Was this the Raw or SmackDown only branded pay-per-view phase?
Yes, I believe so.
So this is a Raw pay-per-view.
Yep, that's right. I believe that's correct. I think so. I haven't looked at it yet. I just thought it would be fun to put on the schedule, so we'll see where you go with that.
No, you give me a second here. I'm literally looking this up right now so that I know what I have to do. Judgment Day 2003. Bear with us, folks, because Jay decided to be a dickhead here and throw me a goddamn curveball.
You've done this to me like 2 or 3 times now, so don't act like a victim.
It's a lot funnier when I do it to you. It's not as funny when I'm in the fucking seat here. All right, what do we have here? Lesnar and Big Show,
research for it yet,
Kevin Nash and Triple H, Mr. America and Roddy Piper. Oh, I can have a lot of fun with this one. John Cena and the FBI against Benoit, Rhino, and Spanky. Oh, bud. This is going to be something.
To coin a phrase from Tyrone. Oh, this is a gift.
It's something. It is something. And as it's the where we get the Intercontinental Championship coming back though, so that's nice. I can have a lot of
Battle
fun with
Royal,
who's
I
going to
believe,
win
right?
that. Raven. Raven. Actually, no, that'll be Goldust because he was the former IC champ, and that was the gimmick of that match. Yeah,
Was
I'll
it
just tell you straight up, Kevin Nash won't be.
as long as
What?
as long as it was the electrocuted gold dust, I'm fine.
Oh, I think that's where we were at this point. And there's a good chance that it's not. Good chance Kevin Nash isn't in the World Heavyweight title match, and it's going to be Raven, and Raven wins because Raven wins. If I can get Raven and Goldust winning the titles on this one, you are going to be shitting your britches, son.
It might be our last episode.
Well, I'm actually looking forward to this one. So, oh god, May 20th, is that when that one's going to air?
I
Why
don't
did we
know.
do
It's
this
going
to
to be next
ourselves?
week's episode, so we'll find out. But
Yeah.
I have to say thank you very much for your kind words and well wishes regarding this pay-per-view. I really appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to kind of wax nostalgic about the new generation era. It is my favorite era. I'm hoping later on this year to touch on some more 1996. That's my favorite year in wrestling, so hopefully we do that. But I feel like we've been really doing well lately in terms of our bookings, and we're really hitting our stride here. So we can't thank you enough, folks, for listening to our podcasts and all your feedback, all your suggestions, recommendations. We get nothing but positive feedback from everybody. So we're really grateful for our listening audience. And we certainly hope you enjoyed today's offering. Next week, we're going to touch on Judgment Day 2003, which is going to be a ton of fun. Super excited to see what you do with some of the matches on that one. But I'm going to take us home here, Tyrone, unless you have anything else.
I mean, the usual, Instagram, good friends, good _enemies, Twitter, good _enemies, and Facebook, the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast. And as always, you can find us on the Counted Out 7 YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment if there are any things that you want us to record. You want a pay-per-view? You want me to tear it apart? You want Jay to tear it apart? You let us know if you have a preference of which one rebooks it. Chances are it's going to be Jay if you want it good and me if you want it bad, and I'm okay with that. But other than that, all I got to say is peace, love, and soul, kids. Jay, take it away.
And for myself and for Tyrone, for the In Your House pay-per-view concept, for Big Daddy Cool Diesel, for Bam Bam Bigelow, and for that youngster who won a house there in Nevada back in 1995, the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast thanks you very much.
Bye.